We'll now talk about another way to organize and classify data, which is by levels of measurement. And there's going to be 4 different levels of measurement that we'll discuss. The first is the nominal level. Nominal data is stuff that can be put into mutually exclusive categories, but there's no order or ranking that we can impose. These include examples like eye color, gender, or political affiliation. All of those things can be put into exclusive categories. However, there's no precise order or ranking. We can't say one is better than the other or one should come first over some of the other options there. Our second level of measurement is called the ordinal level. In the ordinal level, we now have our categories that can be ranked. However, precise differences in those orders don't exist. Some examples of this would be rating something on a poor, acceptable, good level, or a disagree, neutral, agree, or maybe with clothing sizes small, medium, or large. It's very obvious how these different categories should be ranked. However, precise differences don't really make sense. As an example, if we think of the poor, acceptable, good, what I call poor, you may think is acceptable. And there's no quantifiable difference between poor and acceptable. There's no exact difference there. So we can't exactly talk about exact differences, so that would be an ordinal level. The next level is going to be interval level. In the interval level, we now have precise differences that exist, but there's no meaningful zero. And what we mean by a meaningful zero is the fact that zero means the lack of something. A good example of interval level would be temperature. While we can have a temperature of 0, it doesn't mean there's no temperature outside. It's just another number. IQ is also interval level because 0 doesn't mean a complete lack of any types of intelligence. Year is another example. A year of 0 does not mean we don't have a year. It's just when we switch between BC and AD. So a 0 can make sense, but it doesn't mean the lack of something the way it would in normal pretenses. Our final level of measurement is the ratio level. The ratio level has all the characteristics of interval level, however, we now have a true 0. And it's also called ratio because we can understand ratios. We can understand twice as much or 3 times as much. Some examples of this would be height, age, and length. If we think about something like age, 0 would be the moment you're born, so we do have a true 0. It does mean you haven't aged at all. In addition, ratios make sense. I can definitely say I'm twice as old as you, or you are 3 times as old as this other person. So these type of ratios will make sense. Now that we've got the 4 different ones, let's do a couple of examples and see if we can classify them. Here we have 2 examples. The first, the length of time it takes to get to school. Well, 0 would mean it didn't take us any time at all. We were just there. So 0 does have a meaning. In addition, a ratio would make sense here because I could say that it takes twice as long for me to get to school than you. So this would be a ratio. If I look at the time of first class, this one is going to be more interval. The reason why? We can definitely rank times and say that my first class is later than yours. And we can talk about exact differences. We can say that my first class is an hour later than yours. However, a true 0 is not going to make sense here. There isn't a 0 when it comes to the time of day. Maybe you can think of 0 as midnight, like in the 24-hour clock, but that doesn't mean the lack of time in this case. So we have no meaningful 0. So this would be interval. 2 more examples. First, we have the major field of study. What exactly is your major? Well, we can definitely categorize that, but we can't really order it in any meaningful order. There's no one major that's going to be better than the others or one major that absolutely comes first every time. So this one is just nominal. As far as class ranking goes, in this case, we're referring to things like freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. We can definitely classify those, and they can be ranked. However, we can't really have meaningful, precise differences. So this one is going to be ordinal. The reason why we can't have a meaningful difference here, it may make sense that we could, however, not really. First off, I can't subtract freshman and sophomore or anything like that. Maybe you could think of your year, but a freshman is anyone that has between 0 and 30 credit hours. That's not really quantifiable with a single number.